So joining me now is one half of Scottish band Vukovi. It is Hamish. How are you doing?
It's nice to meet you, man. I'm good. I'm good. I'm I'm ready. We're nearly there. Nearly there. You know what I mean? We've got a week left till this record comes out. So I'm feeling anxious but excited.
So, first of all, what does Vukovi mean?
The band name itself, like the actual name,
Yeah.
it's it's a less exciting story than you're probably expecting. But basically, we used to be in a band before Janine joined. This is like 12 years ago. Called Wolves. And it was just like we had a guy singer, and I joined them, and things didn't really work out. We got rid of the singer, and we're like, let's start a new band. What could the name be? Right, it's the first question usually. So, band names are usually an absolute fucking nightmare. Can I swear, by the way? Just tell me if
Not
I can't
real,
swear. That's
not
fine.
really, but we'll
Sorry.
edit it out. We'll edit it out. It's fine.
Band names is usually an absolute nightmare, right? So our bass player was just like, "Oh, screw it. I'll Google Translate Wolves," and literally one of the first results was Vukovi, which is basically Croatian or Serbian. Sorry, the languages are very similar. For Wolves, basically. And honestly, he told us it, and we were just like, "Yes, that's the easiest decision." That was the easiest decision of this band. Was the name? Ironically, it was a Google Translate effort.
It,
That's it.
I always thought it does have that sort of Celtic sort of tone in a way.
Vukovi Jinxo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, So yeah, so obviously you mentioned that the previous band Wolves. So how long has
Hmm.
this sort of interpretation been going for?
Do you want to take a guess?
11 years?
Yes, exactly 11 years.
Oh,
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Yeah, man, 11 years, but it's one of those, man, because like when we started as a band, like we got off to like a good start, and then there's a couple of years between our first EPs and our first album where we just didn't really know what we're doing. So we kind of like cut those years out of our existence a little bit. So the band didn't really become what you see it as in now until what, 5 years ago, probably, maybe about that. Um, First 7 years we're figuring out our shit. We're just trying to figure out what to do. It's quite a hard, it's hard to start a band up in Scotland. It's pretty difficult. There's not
so
a lot of opportunities. Like,
so what's your personal musical influences?
oh man, it's changed over the years, but the initial ones for me growing up and when I first joined the band, and especially for writing and stuff, where Rage Against the Machine was the biggest one. That was the biggest one. Tom Morello was like Tom Morello was the reason I own most of the pedal board that I have, and he was the influence on like, how I play guitar and how I use effects and stuff as well. He
Mm.
was a big influence. I'm sure he was for a lot of people, of that era. But him, John Frusciante from the Chili's, big influence for me as well. And then as I got a bit older, I get into Foles. Big fan of Foles. For the first three records, I think were incredible. First four albums actually. And then I kind of got really into like the indie stuff, like Bombay Bicycle Club, stuff like that. But then as of more recent years, it's more stuff like I love the new Bring Me stuff. I think the new Bring Me stuff is amazing. Like, never used to be that into Bring Me. I think the last few records have been like really influential for me and Janine, actually, for that matter. I'm trying to think what else I've got into recently. Like, well, those are the
Mm.
main, those are the big five. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
The moment.
Um,
So yeah.
so what sort of bands and musicians influenced Vukovi's sound?
Um, the last two albums massively were influenced by Bring Me Horizon for me and Janine, like massively. Like they weren't a band that me and Janine used to listen to, honestly. And then something happened when they brought out That's the Spirit, the album with the umbrella on the
Mm.
front of it. That was like such a game changing album for us. I don't know, it just like resonated with us. So that, because Jordan was in the band at that point. He joined before that, the keyboard guy, and his production is just incredible. Like I think he's a genius. Honestly, the guy's a genius. So we took a lot of influence from that. And then since then, God, I'm trying to think. I mean, Janine could give you a different viewpoint than me. Do you know what I mean? We have similar tastes, but Janine will dive a bit more into like pop kind of stuff, but quite like dark pop. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like a lot. I'm trying to think of new artists that are quite dark pop, but like
I
I mean,
think
we really
the I
like
think the big one is Poppy at the minute. She's
yeah,
got that.
like love Poppy. Yeah, Poppy's great as well. Grimes, really like Grimes. I think Grimes is great. Um, Yeah, and then man, there's a lot of good music right now. It's been the last 2 years, man. I mean, sure Lockdown was shit, but a lot of good stuff came out. I love the new Holding Absence record. I think that is
Mm.
absolutely amazing. That's been very influential on me actually. I think that's an incredible record. So yeah, stuff like that.
So before we get to the album, you have just recently released another EP, which features a lot of the latest singles, Hurt, Lasso, among many. Is this sort of like a prequel to the album?
It's like, so everyone thinks it's an EP. The reason it says EP is because Spotify, for some reason, automatically categorizes it as an EP because it's going to be an album. It's not an EP. It's just like a
All the
collection of
singles.
singles. The amount of folk that are like, "Oh, we love the EP," and we're like, "I promise, it's not an EP. It's not an EP." It just the way it stacks it on Spotify. So yeah, that is a collection of songs so far that are on the album. Yeah, exactly. They're all on the album. So, and it's funny as well, man, because lockdown was such a long period of time that we didn't really know what we were doing. We
Mm.
were kind of winging it with the first few singles, and then those first three singles ended up being on the album just because of time was different during lockdown. Do you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
our release schedule was very just like, who knows what's going to happen. So we just made up. We probably should have, in hindsight, put out less singles, but it was because of COVID, man. You know what I mean? That's why that happened. But
Mm. So the new album, just what's the album called?
it's called Nula, Nula.
Um, Moolah.
Backwards, that's Alan, by the way.
Fair enough. What? Just talk to us about the process of creating the album.
Sure. I mean, the overarching theme of the album is Janine wanted to come up with like Janine loves sci-fi stuff like Alien and all that kind
Don't we all?
of stuff. Yeah, no, 100%. She really got into that during lockdown a lot in particular. And she came up with like a concept basically for the album, which is Nula is the girl. I don't know if you've seen any of the artwork, but there's like a red-haired girl in a lot of the artwork. If you check any of the
Yes.
singles on Spotify, you'll see her. So that is Nula. That's the character Nula.
Ah,
Um,
right.
and it's basically about a corporation that have like developed her and are doing experiments on her. And part of the story of you hear it when you actually hear the album, but there's like an intro, a mid, late, and an outro that's basically kind of about her story a little bit. So we just sort of built this whole theme around that with the look, the visuals, the artwork that to make it like this sci-fi package. Do you know what I mean? Which is fun, man. Because why the hell not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why not? You know what I mean? Janine loves like writing stuff as well, so she's been she was working on a comic for it. I don't know if she's still doing it. That was a plan, but yeah, that's like the themes of the imagery behind the album. A lot of the lyrics are more personal to Janine, honestly, more than telling the story of Nuala. Some of it does, but it's more personal to Janine and her life. And I think in some ways Nuala represents some of Janine's like own personal struggles, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the kind of vibe. And then with the writing stuff, I'm much more of like a chordal person and riffs and production and stuff. And Janine's good at that as well. But Janine's a great, her focus is she loves a good lyric, man, and she's fucking smashed it. Sorry, absolutely smashed it. She's absolutely smashed it on the new album. So, yeah, dead proud of it, man. Yeah, really proud of it.
So tour. So obviously you're about to go on tour in the next couple of weeks or so. Um, how do you think? How are you going to sort of incorporate this sort of sci-fi theme to your live show?
So we had a ton of plans, right, for that. We had like a ton of plans of bringing like props and more crazy lighting stuff, but it was just going to be so expensive that, and as you probably know, not a lot of folk are making a ton of money doing this right now. It's a bit rubbish, especially going to Europe. It's not easy. So we decided to strip it back right now because we know the live show alone, as long as we have the energy, will be chaotic and fun. Do you know what I mean? So that's really going to come across more in like the songs, the backdrop. We've got some basic lighting going on, but what we do want to do is much bigger shows at the end of next year that would exactly, as you're saying, incorporate more of the themes of the album, be it more big visual aids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That would be the plan, and more of a narrative that will play between songs and stuff. But that's for another time. There's we just couldn't do it for this tour. It was too much. So there'll be elements of it, but the big thing will probably not be for another year when we're doing bigger venues, hopefully.
Yes. So Hamish, thanks for taking the time out to have a chat with us. It's been a huge honour.
No problem, man. No problem. Thank you for having me.
And good luck with the new album, which is out in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, legit. Do you know what? It's actually out a week tomorrow. Believe it or not, I'm very nervous.
Don't be. He'll go down well. I can guarantee
Thank
that.
you, thank you, man. Thank you very much.
So again, Hamish, thanks for taking the time out.
No problem, Josh. Thanks a lot, man.